Here comes Bod. Bod's in bed. He's having a dream. And in the dream, he's eating a large bowl of strawberries and cream. Next morning, he can think of nothing but strawberries and cream. Along comes Frank, the postman, with a letter for Bod. "Morning, Bod," says Frank. But Bod doesn't see or hear him. He wouldn't have noticed if an elephant had been the postman. He's in such a daydream about the strawberries. "That's funny," says Frank. "What can Bod be thinking about?" And he's so curious to know that he can't help following him. They come to Farmer Barleymow. "Morning," says Barleymow. But they walk past without answering him. Bod's so busy thinking about strawberries, and Frank's so busy thinking about what Bod can be thinking about, they wouldn't have noticed if Barleymow had been a scarecrow. "Well, I never," says Barleymow. And full of wonder, he follows them. "Good morning, everybody," says Aunt Flo. But they're all so busy with their own thoughts that they walk past without answering her. They wouldn't have noticed her if she had been standing on her head. "What can they be up to?" says Aunt Flo. And lost in thought, she follows them. By and by, they come to a hole in the ground. Bod doesn't see it. He's still dreaming of strawberries. Frank is so busy thinking about what Bod can be thinking about that he doesn't even notice that Bod has disappeared. He, too, walks into the hole. And Barleymow is so busy thinking about what Bod and Frank can be thinking about that he doesn't see the hole either. Nor does Aunt Flo. Then along comes P.C. Copper. He sees the hole. "That's a dangerous hole," he says. "Someone might fall down that." So he puts up signs saying, "Danger, stop," and directs people away from the hole. Suddenly, he hears voices coming from the hole. "Hello, hello," he says, shining his torch. "Anybody down there?" "Yes," says Bod. "And guess what we found down here?" "Oh, dear. Oh. "I give up," says P.C. Copper. "An enormous bowl of strawberries and cream, just like I dreamt about. Come and join us." "I can't join you," says P.C. Copper. "And I can't eat on duty. But save a strawberry for me, and I'll pop it under my helmet to eat later on."
There goes Bod. And here comes... what? It's something that's used at night. Now can you see what it is? A torch. In the dark, a torch beam just lights up parts of things. Now, can you tell what this is part of? What's got a top like that? A bicycle. And there's something else there. What do those wheels belong to? A pram. What's that? Are those ears? It's a cat. It's gone into the night. Can you see anything else? Ears and whiskers. A mouse. It's gone. Into its hole. Hole is house to a mouse, and home sweet home to a vole. A hole is not for a moose or a seal, but for a mole, a hole's ideal. Hole is den to a fox, and burrow to a rabbit. But it's not for us, says the rhinoceros. We've never got into the habit. Hole is home for a shrew, and set for a badger too. But for larger mammals, like giraffes or camels, a hole just won't do. 1, 2, 3 holes in the middle of the road. 3 round holes in the middle of the road. 3 round holes in the middle of the road. But if one large lorry should empty in its load, there'd be 2 round holes in the middle of the road. 2 round holes in the middle of the road. But if one large lorry should empty in its load, there'd be 1 round hole in the middle of the road. 1 round hole in the middle of the road. But if one large lorry should empty in its load, there'd be no round holes in the middle of the road. Alberto Frog and his amazing animal band were practicing for a concert when a carrier pigeon fluttered down with a note for Alberto. It said, "Animal band to report immediately to the Queen of Elsewhere." The animal band in no time at all were on a boat on the high seas going to Elsewhere. When they arrived, the Queen told them the sad story of the King of Elsewhere. "He just can't sleep at night," she said, "which is bad enough. But what's worse is that he takes it out on everybody else. First he wakes me up, and then he wakes up the cook. He wakes up the soldiers. He even wakes up the cows. Now, Alberto," said the Queen, "I've heard a lot about your music. Perhaps when he goes to bed at night you could play him something to send him to sleep." Alberto knew the very thing. And that night the animal band played the king a lullaby. As they played, the king started to nod. He continued to nod. His crown fell, and he fell asleep. Next day the king was thoroughly refreshed and in very good spirits. He ruled very well all morning, signed all sorts of letters and issued all sorts of commands. Then, after an enormous lunch, he said to the Queen, I feel like having a sleep again. Call that frog fellow in and have him play me to sleep. The Queen was worried that if the king slept for long in the day, it would spoil his sleep at night. So she said to Alberto, play him something to give him 40 winks, but no more. I know the very thing, said Alberto. Listen. Oh, said the king, waking up. Amazing what 40 winks will do. Now for some more ruling. How can I possibly thank you, said the Queen. Name anything, however valuable, and it shall be yours. Well, said Alberto. The squirrels knew what he was going to ask for. The cats knew what he was going to ask for. The badger knew what he was going to ask for. Well, he said, I wouldn't say no to a milkshake. Any particular flavour? Said the Queen. I bet it's raspberry, said the badger. I bet it's lime, said the cats. I bet it's vanilla, said the squirrels. Chocolate, please, said Alberto. And they all got a surprise. There goes the animal band. And here comes... Do you remember? PC Copper. Another copper, Snap. Bod and Frank the postman. Now that's not Snap, that's two different pictures. You say Snap when you see two pictures the same. Bod and Farmer Barleymow. No, that's not Snap. Bod and Copper, no. Bod and Bod. Bod on one side and Bod on the other. So that makes Snap. There goes Bod and his friends. But he'll be back.
Here comes Bod. And here comes Frank the postman, mowing his lawn. I'm very proud of his lawn, is Frank. I don't like letting the grass grow under my feet, he says, as he mows. Aunt Flo, Farmer Barleymow, and PC Copper come by on their way to the park. "Will you join us, Frank?" says Bud. "I've got to get this lawn right first," says Frank. "I want it looking as smooth as a billiard table. I may catch you up later." When they get to the park, Aunt Flo loses herself among the flowers. "What blooms," she says. "What blooms. Isn't nature wonderful?" "Who's for boating?" says Barlimore. No one replies. Barlimore is not very good at rowing. "I'll get some practice in then," he says. "I think I'll just drop off," says P.C. Copper. "Drop off," says Bud. "You know, get in a bit of shut-eye. 40 winks, kip, sleep." "Oh, I see," says Bud. Bud gets the bread Aunt Flo has packed in her basket and starts to feed the birds and ducks. But then the big geese march in, pushing the smaller birds out of the way. "Manners, manners," says Bud. "First come, first served." They start to snatch the bread out of Bud's hands. "Let me have some of your bread," says Barlimore. "I'll lure them away." But only one goose follows him. "Oh, I must have dropped off," says P.C. Copper. "Are those geese deserving the peace?" "I'll see to them." "By the left, quick march. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right." Bud has no more bread for the birds. "Time to go home," says Aunt Flo. "Where's Barlimore?" "Come in, number 4, shouts the boatman. "Your time's up." Barlimore is having a spot of trouble with his boat. "Coming," he says. "Just a minute." By the time they pass Frank's garden on the way home, Barlimore's clothes have dried out. P.C. Copper is there, with the geese, and they're eating Frank's grass. "They follow me everywhere, even on traffic duty," says P.C. Copper. When they have nibbled the grass short, the lawn is smoother than it has ever been. "Well, I'd better be taking these geese back to the park," says P.C. Copper. "Can't you stay for tea?" says Frank. "Look what the geese have laid for us." "Soft-boiled, please," says P.C. Copper. "I must say, they have their uses, gooses. I mean geese." Here comes Bud. It's a very warm day. Bud has found a cool place to sit. Along comes Frank the postman, out of breath from pushing his bike up the hill. "Good morning, Bud." He pants. "Good morning," says Bud. "It'll be easier going down." Frank freewheels downhill, making a bit of a breeze for himself. But as he gets up speed, 2 letters fly out of his bag. Bod catches 1 letter. He sees that it's addressed to Aunt Flo. "I'll take it to her," he says. The other letter blows along to P.C. Copper. He tries to catch it with his helmet, but misses. It flies through the air towards Farmer Barleymow and ends up on his pitchfork. "A letter to Aunt Flo," he says. "I must take it to her." Aunt Flo is busy watering her garden. "Hello," says Frank. "I had some post for you, but it seems to have disappeared. Here, let me give you a hand with that hose." Then along comes Bod. "Look, I managed to catch the post," he says. Just then, the hose springs a leak. The jet of water shoots up and carries the letter to Aunt Flo. "By airmail," says Aunt Flo. "It's from my sister Alice in Australia. She's coming to visit me." "I'll put my thumb over the hole," says Bod. "Then the hose will work again." "Hello," says Barleymow. "I found a letter for you." But just then, the hose springs another leak, and a jet of water takes the letter to Aunt Flo. "Oh," says Aunt Flo, "another airmail. It's from my cousin Cuthbert, the one who went to live with the Eskimos." "I better put my thumb over the hole," says Barleymow. "Then the hose will work properly." Then along comes P.C. Copper. "Hello, hello," he says. "Why are you all holding that hose?" "To stop it leaking," says Bod. "A fat lot of good that'll do," says P.C. Copper. "Rain, that's what you need. I wish I could direct that cloud to come here." "Well, why don't you try?" says Bod. "All right," says P.C. Copper. "Now move along there, please. Move along." To his surprise, the cloud does. "Stop," says P.C. Copper when it's overhead. To his even greater surprise, it does. "Oh, I wish I could make it rain by just clapping my hands," says Bod. "Well, why don't you try?" says Aunt Flo. "Go on, have a go," says P.C. Copper. "All right," says Bod. He claps, and it rains. "Rain, rain, what a blessing," says Aunt Flo. "What a fluke, you mean," says P.C. Copper. "How odd," says Bod. "I bet that never happens again." And it didn't. Here comes Bod. Bod's on his way to Barleymow's farm. But when he gets there, he sees Aunt Flo, Frank the postman, and P.C. Copper in the fields. Aunt Flo is behaving most strangely. Why are you behaving like a chicken? Says Maud. Farmer Barlomeau's chickens all got out in the gale last night, says Aunt Flo. They're up in the trees. Pretend to be a chicken with me, and they may come down to us. Go on, Flo and Pod. The cows have all got out too, and Frank the postman is busy rounding them up. I must say delivering cows makes a change from delivering letters, says Frank. P.C. Copper mounts a donkey and rounds up the pigs and piglets. You know, I've always had a hankering to be in the mounted police, he says. Farmer Barlomeau finishes mending all the fences, gates and doors that have been blown down by the wind. When all the animals are safely inside, P.C. Copper says, "You know, Barlomeau, I've never been over your farm before. It'd be ideal for a farmhouse holiday. You could give guests a wonderful bed and breakfast here," says Aunt Flo. "Oh, breakfast, no problem," says Barlomeau. "But what about the bed?" "It's only mine, and I can't have all the guests in bed with me." "I'll soon fix up the other bedrooms," says Frank. "Leave it to me." "Children could have a great holiday here," says Bod. "With all these young animals, we could make the Pet's Corner." "There's only one snag," says P.C. Copper. "The farm's so tucked away, nobody will be able to find it. I'll put up some signs." When the house is ready, Bod and his friends leave Aunt Flo and Barlomeau to prepare for the first guests. The next day, Frank the postman arrives with a letter. Barlomeau opens the letter, and it says, "3 gentlemen arriving tomorrow for bed and breakfast." "But it's tomorrow today," says Aunt Flo, "because that letter was written yesterday. They may be here any minute." There's a knock at the door. "That must be them," she says. "I wonder who they are." "Hello," says Bod. "Hello," says Frank. "Hello," says P.C. Copper. "As it's so nice here, we thought we'd be your first guests. Paying guests, of course." "Oh, I wouldn't dream of you paying," says Barlomeau. "Just be my guests. My very first guests." So Barlomeau provided the beds, Aunt Flo the breakfasts, and they all had a wonderful time helping on the farm. "I must say," says Bod, "it's a very good idea, this bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast, I mean."
There goes Bod. And here comes... what? Can you spot what animal it is coming over the hill? It's an animal with horns. Now, cows got horns. No, they're too curly for a cow's horns. What else has got horns? Ah, whose face is that? It's a sheep. A ram. Oh, and he's going back down again. Now guess what's coming? Something with 2 long ears. Could it be a rabbit? Well, it could, but not with that face. It's a donkey. And off he goes again down the hill. Another one. What's this? No ears, no horns. Oh, well, whatever it is, he's off again. Here he comes back. Now then, look at those ears. Big floppy ones. What's got ears like that? And look at that nose. It's a pig. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pink piglets feeding from a trough. 5 pink piglets feeding from a trough. But if one pink piglet should suddenly be pushed off, there'd be 4 pink piglets feeding from the trough. 4 pink piglets feeding from the trough. But if one pink piglet should suddenly be pushed off, there'd be 3 pink piglets feeding from the trough. 3 pink piglets feeding from the trough. But if one pink piglet should suddenly be pushed off, there'd be 2 pink piglets feeding from the trough. 2 pink piglets feeding from the trough. But if one pink piglet should suddenly be pushed off, there'd be 1 pink piglet feeding from the trough. 1 pink piglet feeding from the trough. And if that pink piglet should suddenly be pushed off, there'd be no pink piglets. Just 1 fat pig feeding from the trough. That's an odd-looking pig. It's a picture drawn in 2 halves. Oh, now it's moving. Now it's got a fish's tail. Look, there are more halves. Lots more of them. There are 4 creatures there. Can you tell what they'll be when the spinning stops? Oh, that's not right. Look, the pig's got a rabbit's back. Spin again. No, they're not right yet. The rabbit's joined up to the pig. Once more. Ah, that's right. There they are, a pig and a rabbit, a dolphin and a butterfly. And that's a frog. Do you know who he is? It's Alberto Frog, about to conduct the amazing animal band. Animal band, prepare to play a 1, 2, 3. It's no good, said Alberto. We're just not playing well anymore. We need a rest. Yes. Oh, yawned Hippo. We need a rest. Let's go and find a nice quiet place for bed and breakfast in the country. Bed and breakfast, said the farmer's wife when the animal band arrived. And how many are there of you? 5, said Alberto. I forgot young Monkey was with us. In the morning, after a breakfast when there was hardly enough eggs and milk to go round, Alberto went over the farm with the farmer. The cows looked very miserable. They're not giving much milk, said the farmer. Maybe music would cheer them up, said Alberto. Alberto looked long and hard at the most miserable cow of the herd, and the most miserable cow of the herd looked long and hard at Alberto. Music suitable for a cow, thought Alberto. No, that won't do. Something soothing. I know. He assembled the animal band by the cowsheds, and they started to play. Well, there was no doubt about it. The cows looked as if They enjoyed the music. And that morning they gave more milk than they had for a long time. "It worked," said the farmer. "Come and look at my hens." The hens weren't much to look at. "Haven't had a cluck out of them for weeks," said the farmer. "Leave alone an egg." "We'll soon put a stop to that," said Alberto. "Animal band, prepare to play hen-type music. 1, 2, 3. "Eggs, dozens of eggs," said the farmer. "They've never laid so many. Let's celebrate with another breakfast." At breakfast, the farmer said, "Alberto, I'll always play music to my animals now." "Make sure it's music they like," said Alberto. "How can I thank you?" said the farmer. "Well," said Alberto, Tiger knew what he was going to ask for. Hippo knew what he was going to ask for. Chimp knew what he was going to ask for. "I wouldn't say no to a milkshake," said Alberto. "Any particular flavour?" It's going to be lemon," thought Chimp. "It's going to be, blackcurrant," thought Hippo. "It's going to be raspberry," thought Tiger. Blackcurrant, please," said Alberto. Hippo was right. Were you? There goes the animal band. And here comes... Do you remember? PC Copper. And here comes... Who's this? Aunt Flo. And here comes... Who is it? Frank the postman. Another Frank, Snap. Barleymow and Frank the postman. No, that's not Snap. That's two different pictures. You say Snap when you see two picture cards the same. Barleymow and Aunt Flo. No, that's not Snap. Barleymow and Copper. No. Barleymow and Barleymow. Barleymow on one side and Barleymow on the other. So that makes Snap. There goes Bod and his friends.
Here comes Bod. I'm going to throw this apple up in the air and catch it, says Bod. Watch me. That's funny, says Bod. It hasn't come down. Here comes Aunt Flo. Hello, Bod, she says. What are you doing here? I'm waiting for an apple I threw up in the air, says Bod. It hasn't come down. Oh, it will, says Aunt Flo. They always do. And she waits with Bod for the apple to come down. Here comes Frank, the postman. Hello, says Frank. Why are you standing here? We're waiting for an apple that Bod threw up in the air to come down again, says Aunt Flo. Can you see it? No, says Frank. But it's sure to come down soon. I'll wait with you and Bod. Here comes Farmer Barleymow. Hello, he says. What's up? An apple, says Frank. Bod threw one up in the air and it hasn't come down. It'll be down, says Farmer Barleymow. What goes up must come down. And Farmer Barleymow waits with Frank, Aunt Flo, and Bod for the apple to come down. Here comes P.C. Copper. Hello, hello, says P.C. Copper. What are you all waiting here for? An apple, says Farmer Barleymow. An apple, says P.C. Copper. Yes, an apple, says Farmer Barleymow. Bod threw it up in the air and we're still waiting for it to come down. Then you must be daft, says P.C. Copper. How can an apple stay up in the air so long? It must have been stolen by a bird. Now, move along there. Farmer Barleymow feels very foolish and goes red in the face. I must be daft, he thinks, wasting my time here when I could be driving my tractor. He turns to Frank and says, You must be daft, Frank, waiting here. How can the apple still be up in the air? Now, Frank feels very foolish and goes red in the face. I must be daft, he thinks, wasting my time here when I could be taking round letters. He turns to Aunt Flo and says, Excuse me, madam, but you must be daft waiting here. How can the apple still be up in the air? Now, Aunt Flo feels very foolish and goes red in the face. I must be daft, she thinks, wasting my time here when I could be baking a cake. And she turns to Bod and says, You must be daft. How can the apple still be up in the air after all this time? Honestly, Bod, sometimes I think you need your bumps felt. Now it's Bod's turn to feel foolish and go red in the face. I must be daft, he thinks, waiting around here when I could be getting another apple to throw up in the air and catch. And he is just going to walk away when... Bonk. You said I needed my bumps felt, he says to Aunt Flo. Come and feel this one. Then P.C. Copper, Farmer Barleymow, Frank, and Aunt Flo all buy apples and throw them up in the air to see how long they will stay up. But their apples come straight down again. Here comes Bod. Good morning, says Bod. Good morning, says Aunt Flo. Good morning, says P.C. Copper. Good morning, says Farmer Barleymow. Good morning, says Frank the postman. It's a lovely day to be going to the seaside. this way to the beach, says P.C. Copper. I hope it doesn't cloud over before we get there. But it does. Never mind, says Bod, as long as it doesn't rain. There's never any shortage of things to do on the beach, says Aunt Flo. I'm going to collect seashells. One thing you won't find me doing, says P.C. Copper, and that's swimming. Whew. Nor me, says Barleymow. Even the gulls don't feel like going in. It's not so cold once you're out of the wind, says Frank. It's almost balmy, in fact. It's no good being a fisherman unless you're an all-weather fisherman, says Barleymow. Bit on the fresh side, isn't it? Says P.C. Copper. Still, coppers can't be choosers. I know how to keep you warm, says Bod. Lie down. What for? Says P.C. Copper. You'll see, says Bod. The sand is warm, and I'll cover you in it. Well, that's a useful little trick, says P.C. Copper. I must remember that for when I come again. Now, can I borrow your helmet, says Bod. Why do you want it, says P.C. Copper. That's fine, says Bod. I've collected so many different shells now, says Aunt Flo. I'll have plenty to decorate the lamp I'm making. I must get back to the others. Oh, dear. It's not going to be so easy. The tide's coming in, right in, and I can't swim. Help, she cries. Swim, shouts Barleymow. I can't. Oh, help, she cries. Don't panic, anybody, says P.C. Copper. Just carry out my orders to the letter. Bod, get my helmet. I can't find it, says Bod. It's on your head, says Frank. Oh, says Bod, how silly of me. Now, throw the helmet to Frank, says P.C. Copper. Frank, you throw it to Barleymow. And Barleymow, attach the helmet to your line and cast it to Aunt Flo. Right? Cast. Now jump in, madam, and hold on to the helmet. It'll keep you afloat. Now reel the lady in. As Aunt Flo scrambles ashore, the sun comes out. Isn't that lucky, she says, just in time to dry my clothes. At least you managed to get a dip in, says P.C. Copper. Helmet, please, Bod. Oh, I see you managed to catch a couple of tiddlers, Barleymow. I reckon we've all had a good day. Here comes Bod. Bod is thinking about a dog. One day, I'll have a dog, he says. But what dog? What dog is my sort of dog? Along comes Aunt Flo. Now, if Aunt Flo had a dog, says Bod, what dog would she have? What dog is her sort of dog? I know. A poodle, yes. She looks the poodle type. Good morning, says Aunt Flo. Good dog, says Bod, who could still think of nothing but dog. Then along comes Frank the postman. Now, what's Frank's dog? Says Bod. What sort of dog would Frank have? Yes, I think he's the terrier type. Good morning, Bod, says Frank. Good dog, says Bod, who can still think of nothing but dog. Then along comes Farmer Barleymow. Now, if Barleymow had a dog, says Bod, what sort of dog would he have? Yes, I think he's the sheepdog type. Good morning, Bod, says Barleymow. Good dog, says Bod, who can still think of nothing but dog. But I still don't know what's my sort of dog, says Bod. Is it spaniel? Or bulldog? Or Pekingese? And then along comes P.C. Copper. Now, what sort of dog would P.C. Copper have, says Bod. I know. He's the Alsatian type. Good morning, Bod, says P.C. Copper. Good dog, says Bod, still thinking of nothing but dog. What do you mean, good dog, says P.C. Copper. I was thinking about what dog I'd choose if I was going to have one, says Bod. It looks to me as if it's a case of the dog choosing the person, says P.C. Copper. Take a look behind you. Then Bod sees the dog that's been following him. Good dog, says Bod. The dog doesn't say anything. He seems to have chosen you, says P.C. Copper. He didn't choose me, or Barleymow, or Frank, or Flo. He chose you. So he must be your sort of dog, and you must be his sort of Bod.
There goes Bod. And here comes... what? Can you spot what it is? It's an animal of some sort. It's a cat. Another cat. And a squirrel. A rabbit. A dog. A stag. And a cow. Now, one of those animals is off to hide behind a tree. Which one do you think it is? There's a tail showing. And it's got long whiskers. It's the cat. Is there another animal behind that tree? Yes, there's its tail. And is that a horn? Yes, of course, it's the cow. Well, that's just a tree. No animal there. Tree with lots of branches. Hello. Now, there's something funny about those branches. They haven't got any twigs on them. They're not branches. They're antlers. It's the stag. The antlers did look like branches, though, didn't they? What's that? An animal with two tails? Let's have a closer look. It's not one animal, it's two dogs. Another dog. This dog is looking for a bone. Maybe he'll find it buried in the ground. 5 tasty bones buried in the ground. 5 tasty bones buried in the ground. But if one tasty bone should happen to be found, there'd be 4 tasty bones buried in the ground. 4 tasty bones buried in the ground. But if one tasty bone should happen to be found, there'd be 3 tasty bones buried in the ground. 3 tasty bones buried in the ground. But if one tasty bone should happen to be found, there'd be 2 tasty bones buried in the ground. 2 tasty bones buried in the ground. But if one tasty bone should happen to be found, there'd be 1 tasty bone buried in the ground. 1 tasty bone buried in the ground. But if that tasty bone should happen to be found, there'd be no tasty bones buried in the ground. Duke was a dog whose tail wagged a great deal. His tail wagged when his owner, Mr. Charlton, took him for a walk, and when he wasn't out for a walk with Mr. Charlton, just the thought of being out for a walk with Mr. Charlton would start his tail wagging. There was only one thing that stopped his tail wagging, and that was the sound of music. Now this was a great shame, because Mr. Charlton liked to play the piano in the evening. But it made no difference. Even when he played the happiest music, Duke would just sit on the floor, his tail still, his ears drooping, looking thoroughly miserable. One day, Alberto Frog and his amazing animal band came to play in the bandstand in the park. The jolly music brought a smile to everybody's face. But when Alberto Frog saw how miserable Duke looked, with his tail hanging down, he tapped his stick and brought the band to a stop. "That's impossible," said Alberto. "There must be one instrument in the band that will make the dog's tail wag. Let's try the cello." And he pointed to Chimp on cello. But Duke's tail didn't stir. Said Alberto, and pointed to Baboon on bassoon. But that didn't work either. "Maybe something more unusual," said Alberto, and pointed to Elephant on the tuba. And the tuba did the trick. "You've done it, said Mr. Charlton. How can I thank you? Well, said Alberto. The monkeys knew what he was going to ask for. The squirrels knew what he was going to ask for. The badger knew what he was going to ask for. Well, said Alberto, I wouldn't say no to a milkshake. Certainly, said Mr. Charlton. Any particular flavour? It's going to be raspberry, thought Badger. It's going to be strawberry, thought the squirrels. It's going to be chocolate, thought the monkeys. Who do you think was right? Chocolate, please, said Alberto. The monkeys were right. Were you? There goes the animal band. And here comes... Do you remember? Bod. And here comes... Do you know? Aunt Flo. And here comes... Who's this? Frank the postman. And here comes... Farmer Barleymow. And last, but not least, PC Copper. 2 PC Coppers, snap. 2 Aunt Flo's, snap. Bod and Frank the postman. No, that's not snap. Those are 2 different pictures. You say snap when you see 2 pictures the same. Bod and Aunt Flo. No, that's not snap. Bod and Copper. No. Bod and Frank the postman. No, that's not snap. Bod and Bod. There's Bod on one side and Bod on the other. Snap. There goes Bod and his friends. But he'll be back.
Here comes Bod. Hello? Says Bod. It's Aunt Flo. I'm making a cake, she says. Can you come to tea? I'd love to, says Bod. Would you mind phoning Barleymow, Frank, and PC Copper for me and ask them too? Says Aunt Flo. I'm right in the middle of mixing. Oh, and would you phone me just before you come to remind me to take the cake out of the oven? You know how forgetful I've grown. I won't forget, says Bod. I'll just do another piece of my jigsaw before I ring. Now, where can it go? Here? Nope. There? No. Where? Barleymow takes some time to answer the phone, as he's busy feeding his pigs. Hello? Says Barleymow. Aunt Flo is making a cake, says Bod, and wants us all to come to tea. Can you come? I wouldn't miss one of Flo's cakes for all the tea in China, says Barleymow. Would you mind phoning the others and asking them too, says Bod. I'm right in the middle of a jigsaw. I'd better put the cows in first, says Barleymow. Come on, Gertrude, come on, move yourself. Gertrude is the slowest cow. Hello, says Frank. Aunt Flo is making a cake, says Barleymow. Can you come? Can I come? Nothing would stop me coming, says Frank. Would you mind phoning PC Copper and ask him too, says Barleymow. I must get the mud off my boots and have a good wash. I'll just finish off this paper hanging, says Frank. It won't take a jiffy. But it does. Several jiffies. And not all of the paper goes on the wall.
Oh, ah, ooh.
Hello, says PC Copper. Aunt Flo is making a cake, says Frank. Can you come? Haven't had one of Flo's cakes for years, says PC Copper. The last one was a sponge I'll never forget. I'll just sort out this traffic jam first. I don't want jam for my tea, especially traffic jam. I want Flo's cake. He moves the traffic on and signals to Bod that it's safe to cross. What do you think she's made this time, says PC Copper. Fruit, sponge, or chocolate cake? But when they arrive at Aunt Flo's, Bod remembers that he didn't remind her to take the cake out of the oven. I'm terribly sorry, says Bod. I don't know what to say. It must be burnt to a cinder. It isn't, says Aunt Flo. I've just remembered. I forgot to put it in. Never mind. Now you're all here, let's have tea just the same. Will you help me make some sandwiches, Bod? Certainly, says Bod. Frank, PC Copper, and Barleymow are very disappointed there's no cake, but they don't show it. What lovely sandwiches, they say. I'll put the cake in the oven now, says Aunt Flo, and then you can all come and have tea again with me tomorrow. After tea, Bod does the washing up, and the others do the drying up. Barleymow takes care of the saucers and plates, Frank the cups, and PC Copper the larger items. By the way, says Bod, when they're saying goodbye to Aunt Flo, how will you remind yourself about the cake? Oh, I'll just tie a knot in my handkerchief, says Aunt Flo. Goodbye. Here comes Bod. Bod has got a kite. He goes to the top of a hill to fly it. The kite goes up in the air. It's going up, says Bod. It's coming down. Along comes Frank the postman. He sees the kite on the ground. Having trouble with that kite? He says to Bod. Here, let me give you a hand. He ties the kite to his bike, cycles to the top of the hill, and freewheels down the other side. We have liftoff, says Frank. Look, it's going up. It's coming down. Then along comes Farmer Barleymow. sees the kite on the ground. "I'll tie it to my tractor," he says. "That'll give it a good start." "It's going up," says Farmer Barleymow. It's coming down. Then along comes PC Copper. "Hello, hello," he says. "Spot a kite trouble, eh? I'll give you a hand." As luck would have it, I have the use of the police helicopter today. I've got to go up aloft and spot traffic jams. I'll take the kite with me. He takes the kite up in the air and lets it go. "It's going up," he says. It's coming down. Then along comes Aunt Flo. She sees the kite on the ground. "Oh dear," she says. "Isn't it working?" "Never mind. I brought along a picnic lunch to give you new strength." "What a spread," says Bod. After lunch, Bod and his friends fall asleep in the sun. Bod dreams of a sky full of kites. While they're all asleep, a breeze springs up and lifts the kite into the air. It rises higher and higher into the sky. Bod wakes up just in time to catch it. The others wake up too. "Well done," they say. "How did you manage it? What method did you use?" "Oh, I just dreamt it up," says Bod. Here comes Bod. Bod is busy collecting sticks for Farmer Barleymow. "I wonder what he wants these sticks for," says Bod. "What are you going to do with them?" he asks. "I'll show you," says Barleymow. "Stick around." "There," says Barleymow. "A bird table for Aunt Flo. The birds don't come to her garden, and she misses them. Maybe this will bring them." When they get to Aunt Flo's, they unload the bird table and set it up in the garden. "We've got a surprise for you," says Barleymow. "Knowing how much you like having birds in your garden, we've made you a bird table. I hope it brings them." Aunt Flo is delighted. "I've got a surprise for you, too," she says. "What can it be?" says Bod. "Haven't the foggiest," says Barleymow. "Knowing how much you dislike having birds in your fields spoiling the corn," says Aunt Flo, "I've made you this scarecrow. I hope it scares them away." Bod and Barleymow take the scarecrow back to the farm and set it up in the field. But the birds aren't at all scared by it. In fact, they flock to it from miles around. The bird table in Aunt Flo's garden isn't a great success either. Aunt Flo has put bread and seeds on it, but no birds come. I don't know what birds are coming to, says Aunt Flo. A lovely bird table like that, full of goodies, and they ignore it. Then Frank the postman comes with a letter for Aunt Flo. Farmer Barleymow has made this lovely bird table for me, she says, but it doesn't work. I don't like to hurt his feelings and tell him, but it just doesn't work. Then Frank goes to Farmer Barleymow. Aunt Flo has made this scarecrow for me, says Barleymow, but it doesn't work. I don't like to hurt her feelings and tell her, but it just doesn't work. What can I do about it? Let's go and have a word with P.C. Copper, says Frank. Aunt Flo's got no birds and wants them. And Barleymow's got lots and doesn't. What can they do? Ask Bod, says P.C. Copper. He might know. I know, says Bod. Put the scarecrow in the garden and the bird table in the field. So they put the scarecrow right by Aunt Flo's roses. In no time at all, her garden is full of birds of every shape and color. And they put the bird table in Farmer Barleymow's cornfield. No bird will come near it. Aunt Flo and Farmer Barleymow are so pleased with the swap, they decide to have a picnic in Farmer Barleymow's cornfield. And the birds have a picnic too, on the scarecrow.
There goes Bod. And here comes... what? Can you spot what it is? It's a feather. And here comes... what's this? A leaf. Now, something's coming, falling through the air. A leaf or a feather. Say which you think it's going to be. It's a leaf. Were you right? Now guess again. A feather. And this time, will it be the leaf again? Oh no, it's another feather. Now, have you made your guess this time? It's a leaf. There's something under these leaves. Can you guess what? Is that a tail? Yes, and whiskers, look. It's an animal. Do you know what it is? It's a mouse. Now, what's under these feathers? It's a difficult one, isn't it? Lots of lines. What's made a line pattern like that? Oh, it's a spider in a spider's web. Something else to guess. What on earth's that? It might be easier to guess when you can see some more of it. Now, do you know what it is? It's a tortoise in its shell. You can just see its legs sticking out, but its head's tucked away. He likes to go to sleep under the leaves. Ah, what's this? Are those legs sticking out? Oh, it's a beetle. Did you see him? Now what's hidden here? Something prickly. What's got prickles? Do you know now? It's a hedgehog. There's another insect under here. Those spots are a clue. A ladybird. And there's a lady with bird's feathers on her hat. 3 fluttering feathers on a lady's hat. 3 fluttering feathers on a lady's hat. But if one fluttering feather should blow away, whoosh, like that, there'd be 2 fluttering feathers on a lady's hat. 2 fluttering feathers on a lady's hat. But if one fluttering feather should blow away, whoosh, like that, there'd be 1 fluttering feather on a lady's hat. 1 fluttering feather on a lady's hat. And if that fluttering feather should blow away, whoosh, like that, there'd be no fluttering feathers on the lady's hat. "There's no feathery bird in my cage," said Mrs. Spencer to Alberto Frog. Her canary had flown out of its cage, out of the window of number 17, out of the garden, and into the forest. "Don't worry, Mrs. Spencer," said Alberto. "Alberto Frog and his amazing animal band will get your canary back for you." That afternoon, Alberto led his animal band, playing as they went, deeper and deeper into the forest. When they got to the middle of the forest, Alberto stopped and said, "Now, who can play a bird call to bring back the canary?" "I can," said the duck, "on my trumpet." "No," said Alberto, "you'll just sound like a duck." "Well, a duck's a bird," said the duck. It is. Now, who else can play like a bird?" said Alberto. "I can," said the squirrel, and he played his flute. But no bird came. "Who else can play like a bird?" "I can," said the cat, and she played her clarinet. But no bird came. "That's strange," said Alberto. "But maybe Mrs. Spencer's bird likes funny music." And he pointed to Duck to play. It worked. The canary came closer and closer and settled on the trumpet. "What a funny bird," said Alberto. Mrs. Spencer was delighted to have her canary back, and the canary was delighted to be back with Mrs. Spencer. "Oh, how can I thank you?" said Mrs. Spencer to Alberto. "Well," said Alberto, the hippos knew what he was going to ask for. The ostriches knew what he was going to ask for. Gnu knew what he was going to ask for. "It's quite thirsty work conducting," said Alberto. "I wouldn't say no to a milkshake." "Any particular flavour?" said Mrs. Spencer. "It's going to be orange," thought Gnu. It's going to be lemon," thought the ostriches. "It's going to be, vanilla," thought the hippos. Who do you think was right? Lemon, said Alberto. The ostriches were right. Were you? There goes the animal band. And here comes... Do you remember? Aunt Flo. And here comes... Who is it? Bod. Another Bod, Snap. Frank the postman and Farmer Barleymow. No, that's not Snap, that's two different pictures. You say Snap when you see two picture cards the same. Frank and PC Copper. No, that's not Snap. Frank and Aunt Flo. No. Frank and Frank. Frank on one side and Frank on the other. So that makes Snap. There goes Bod and his friends. But he'll be back.
Here comes Bod. Bod is listening to a grasshopper singing. That grasshopper sounds so close, says Bod. I'll follow its sound and then I'll see it. But as he goes towards it, the grasshopper stops chirping and hops off. Bod hops after it. Then Frank the postman cycles by. What's up with Bod, he says. I must find out what Bod's up to. And so he hops after him. Then Aunt Flo comes by and sees Bod and Frank hopping about in the long grass. I must find out what they're up to, she says, and hops after them. Then along comes PC Copper. Hello, hello, he says. What's going on here? I must look into this. Farmer Barleymow isn't all that surprised to see his friends hopping madly about in the air. They're always up to something, he says. What can it be now? And he hops after them. Anyone seeing us must think we're hopping mad, he says. They hop over several fields. At last, the grasshopper stops hopping and starts singing again. Bod and his friends come to a stop too. What are we all hopping for? Asked Barleymow. Ask Aunt Flo, says PC Copper. Ask Frank, says Aunt Flo. Ask Bod, says Frank. He started it. I'm following a grasshopper, explains Bod. I'm hoping and hopping and hopping and hoping to see him. He hops after the grasshopper. The others follow him. Suddenly, Frank stops in mid-air. He spotted a mother swan sitting on her eggs. Now, that's a sight I've never seen before, says Frank. Amazing what you discover when you follow a grasshopper. Then PC Copper spots something that stops him in mid-hop. Goodness me, he says. That's the stolen car the whole force has been searching for. Amazing what you discover when you follow a grasshopper. Barleymow, too, is suddenly stopped in his hops. He hears a bleating sound. Goodness me, he says. That's my lost sheep. Amazing what you discover when you follow a grasshopper. Then Aunt Flo stops. Well, I never, she says. A badger's set. I didn't know there was one in these woods. Amazing what you discover when you follow a grasshopper. They all stop to look. The grasshopper stops too. Can you see where? Well, we've all discovered something by following the grasshopper, says Aunt Flo. What about you, Bod? Oh, I've discovered what a good day you can spend when you follow a grasshopper, says Bod. Here comes Bod. It's Christmas Eve, and he's taking a Christmas present to his Aunt Flo. I'd better hurry, says Bod. It's snowing hard. He's only gone a little way when he sees Police Constable Copper trudging through the snow. Hello, says Bod. Hello, hello, says PC Copper. Where are you off to? I'm taking a present to Aunt Flo, says Bod. So am I, says PC Copper. Then they see Frank the postman struggling through the snow. Hello, hello, says PC Copper. Where are you going? I'm taking a present to Aunt Flo, says Frank. So are we, says PC Copper. After a while, they see Farmer Barleymow. Hello, says Frank. Going to Aunt Flo's? I'm trying to, says Barleymow. So are we, says Frank. They try to go on together, but the snow is too deep. Cold, isn't it, says Barleymow. Yes, says PC Copper. Yes, says Frank. Bod is too cold to answer. Then, at midnight, when everything is very still and quiet, there's a jingle of bells. And out of the night rides Father Christmas on his sleigh. Whoa there, whoa, he cries to his reindeer when he sees the 4 parcels in the snow. Someone must have dropped these presents for Aunt Flo, he says, reading the labels. I better take them to her. He goes to pick the first parcel up, but he can't move it. He gives a tremendous tug, and up it comes with Bod on the end. Hello, says Bod. Then Bod helps Father Christmas pull the others out of the snow. Jump in, I'll give you a lift, says Father Christmas. Thank you, says Bod. Getting you out of the snow has made me a bit late, says Father Christmas. Would you help me deliver some presents on the way? We'd love to, says Bod. Father Christmas gives them each a sack of presents, and they all go down chimneys and fill the Christmas stockings. Happy Christmas, says Bod. Oh, what a fright you gave me, says Aunt Flo. Then Bod gives his present to Aunt Flo. It's a hat. Thank you, Bod, says Aunt Flo. How kind of you. Happy Christmas, says PC Copper, and he gives Aunt Flo his present. It's another hat. Oh, it's gorgeous, says Aunt Flo. What a kind copper you are. Then Barleymow gives his present. Guess what it is, he says. I've no idea, says Aunt Flo. Oh, what a gorgeous hat. How good of you, Barleymow, to buy me a hat. Happy Christmas, says Frank, giving Aunt Flo his present. It's another hat for you, I'm afraid. Oh, what a hatty Christmas I'm having, says Aunt Flo. Now it's my turn, she says. A very happy Christmas to you all. Aunt Flo has given them all handkerchiefs. Thank you so much, says Bod. These handkerchiefs will come in very nosy. These nosekerchiefs will come in very handy. Aunt Flo couldn't have given a more useful present, for Bod and his friends have all caught colds from their night in the snow. It was worth catching cold, thinks Bod, to meet Father Christmas and to see Aunt Flo in all those hats.
Happy. Atishimus,
says Bod.
There goes Bod. And here comes what? Can you spot what it is? Something for a party? Something to pull? A cracker. There's something inside it. What do you think it is? A ring, a paper crown, or a whistle? Which one? Have you made your guess? A paper crown. Did you guess that? Some more things to guess. Presents wrapped up. Can you guess what's inside the wrapping of this one? And there's the corner of something. Perhaps it's a bumper. There's a wheel. And windows. It's a car. Oh, here's a fat round present. It's got a slot on top. Flowers? Oh, there's its face. It's a piggy bank. Now, what's inside this parcel with the snowman on the paper? Those ears at the top. Yes, they're ears. And there's its eyes. Oh, that's a familiar face. It's a teddy bear. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 white snowmen standing in the snow. 5 white snowmen standing in the snow. But if one white snowman should melt away, just so, there'd be 4 white snowmen standing in the snow. 4 white snowmen standing in the snow. But if one white snowman should melt away, just so, there'd be 3 white snowmen standing in the snow. 3 white snowmen standing in the snow. But if one white snowman should melt away, just so, there'd be 2 white snowmen standing in the snow. 2 white snowmen standing in the snow. But if one white snowman should melt away, just so, there'd be 1 white snowman standing in the snow. 1 white snowman standing in the snow. But if that white snowman should melt away, just so, there'd be no white snowman melting in the snow. Snow. And there's more on the way. Snowfall takes all. By quiet more than storm. By quiet falls at night. By dawn all is white. Snow falls on one and snow falls on all. On one twig and all. On all twigs and one. On one roof and all. On all roofs and 1. Snowfall takes all. By quiet falls at night. By dawn, all is white. Do you hear that? There's an amazing band in there. Alberto Frog and his amazing animal band. Here's a story about them. They were busy practicing Christmas carols, but every now and then Hippo on the horn would play a wrong note, or play when he wasn't meant to. Next day, when they were out practicing in the snow to get used to the cold, Alberto went up to Hippo and said, "Is there something worrying you, Hippo? I've never known you play so many wrong notes." "As a matter of fact, there is," said Hippo. "I can't think what to get the missus, my wife, Mrs. Potamus, that is. I can't think what to get her for her birthday, and it falls on Christmas Day of all days. I've thought of buying her a big box of chocolates, but no. I've thought of buying her a big bunch of flowers, but no. I've thought of buying her a hat, but nothing seems to fit." Said Alberto. I've got an idea, but we'll have to keep it secret if it's going to be a surprise." That night, Alberto Frog sat up late, humming tunes to himself and writing them down. For the next few days, the animal band played carols in the evening. But in the day, they weren't to be seen around the town. They were practicing in the most out-of-the-way places. Christmas morning came, and Hippo got out of bed very early. Then Mrs. Hippo was woken by the sounds of music coming from the other side of the bedroom door. She got up, opened the door, and to her amazement, found the whole animal band playing on the stairs. "Many happy returns, my dear," said Hippo as the music finished. "I hope you liked the present. Alberto wrote the music and we've been practicing for days to get it right." "Oh, you couldn't have given me a better present," said Mrs. Potamus. "Play it again." There goes the animal band. And here comes... Do you remember? Bod. And here comes... Who is it? Aunt Flo. And here comes... Who's this? Frank the postman. And here comes... Farmer Barleymow. And here comes, last but not least, PC Copper. 2 coppers, snap. 2 flows, snap. Bod and Frank. Now, that's not snap, it's 2 different pictures. You say snap when you see 2 pictures the same. Bod and Barleymow. Now, that's not snap. Bod and Aunt Flo, no. Bod and Frank, no, that's not Snap. Bod and Bod. Bod on one side and Bod on the other. Snap. There goes Bod and his friends. But he'll be back.
It's autumn, and the leaves are changing colour and falling. Aunt Flo is very sad to see all the leaves falling from her cherry tree, but Bod cheers her up. The leaves must fall before the blossom comes again in the spring, he tells her. That's right, isn't it? He says to Frank, the postman who is passing by. Of course, says Frank. The blossom can't come until the leaves have fallen. That's so, isn't it? He says to Farmer Barleymow, who is passing by. Very much so, says Barleymow. The leaves must fall before the blossom comes. That's the law of things, isn't it, Constable? Says Barleymow to P.C. Copper, who comes by just then. Yes, says P.C. Copper. The leaves must fall so the blossom can come. That's the law of things. So the leaves fall. Then, after the winter, it's spring, and the blossom comes. And Aunt Flo is happy again. Isn't it beautiful, she says. It is, says Bod. But when the blossom begins to fall, Aunt Flo feels sad. Once again, Bod cheers her up. The blossom must fall before the cherries can come, says Bod. That's right, isn't it? Yes, says Frank. Yes, says Barleymow. Quite right, says P.C. Copper, and Aunt Flo feels happy again. So the blossom falls, and in the summer, the cherries come. Every day, Aunt Flo and Bod go to look at the cherries ripening. Aren't they coming along, says Bod to Frank. They are, says Frank. Aren't they coming along nicely, says Frank to Barleymow. Very nicely, says Barleymow. Very nicely indeed. They're ripe for picking, says Barleymow. Yes, says P.C. Copper. They're beauties. Then let's all come tomorrow morning, says Bod, and help Aunt Flo pick them. But when they get to the tree, they find Aunt Flo almost in tears. There's hardly a cherry left. The birds have eaten them. This time, Bod doesn't know how to cheer her up. But then, up in the tree, the birds start to sing. They sing so beautifully that Bod, Frank, Barleymow, P.C. Copper, and Aunt Flo listen spellbound. You see, says Bod to Aunt Flo, it's your cherries that have helped to make the birds sing so beautifully. And that makes Aunt Flo happy again.